Hi everyone. Can't see you, but there is a knowing that there is the one, and you are that. What I used to say in the spells, still do sometimes, I can't teach you anything, and I can't tell you anything. Understand that right from the start. And when you realise or recognise what we're talking about, you realise there's nobody that can teach you anything and nobody that can tell you anything. Because there is no body, there is no mind. There is only that one. It's the one essence which is utilising patterning shapes and forms to express through. And they're expressing through that which you call you. But you are only that. And that is only you. And everything else. What the differentiation is, the discrimination is, we put a label or a word on it. And all these words that are coming out right now are just words which have been picked up and learnt along the way, the so-called way, which is no way. But understand that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt. You weren't born with any words. And understand that the word is not the thing. The word's not the real. It's just a way of passing on to somebody else through sounds, vibration, energy, which form into words. But the bird doesn't have any words. It'll have a song or a sound or a call, which different way it vibrates, higher or low. One call can be a call, there's food here, come and help me eat it, or another one will be there's danger, or another one will be a mating call, but all different calls. The same with all the other animals. They have calls, sounds. And a cicada or an insect like that will vibrate through the wings, making sounds that will attract a mate. So the sounds are part of the functioning, but we think the word is the real. The concept or that we put upon it, we think is the real. The meaning we put into it. Every word we've ever spoken or ever learnt has been picked up along the way. And you must realise that when you see you've got a dictionary full of words. Do you know every word in the dictionary?
Nope.
And I've forgotten a lot of I used to know too.
What's that?
So there's many different meanings and many different languages in which the words are expressed through with different meanings to them, different sounds in them. Tells you in the Hinsing Ming, beautiful Buddhist text, Zen Buddhist text. It finishes up, it starts off, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, meaning when the words love, hate, good, bad, pleasant, painful are both absent, so they're both the one end of the stick, but they express in the pairs of opposites. When you're not expressing in those opposites, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Without the word, there's just that clarity there. Undisguised, not covered over by the meaning we put into the words. make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. Now, even if you look at that, what's the heavens? The heavens are what we call sky. You look up into the heavens, what we believe, something up there, the sky. And what's the earth? Is this planet or star or whatever it is we're sitting on that's rolling around the sky. Are they separate? No. Can they ever be separate? No. But the words discriminate them and make them seem separate. And it goes on through that, pointing out these things to it, till it comes to the end, where it says, words. The way is beyond language. That's beyond the language. For in it there's no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today. Not only mean yesterday, tomorrow, today, but there's nothing in it whatsoever without the word. But if you ask yourself that, what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it, and you look beyond and see beyond the thought, or when the thought is paused, or whatever way it happens for you, you'll see there's no thinking about it. It is clear and undisguised. There is nothing you can say is good or bad about it. You can't say it is, you can't say it isn't. But we've got all these words. And what does this word tell us? Well, it translates the sense of presence, the knowing that you are translates as the word or the thought, I am.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't do much with I. We can't do much with pure I. But we add on to it, I am Bob or Bill or Harry or whatever your name might be, him, he, her, or this, that and that. These different other words, concepts. And load the word down from just a pure sound into a seeming what we call person. Another word we put on it. Person, coming from an ancient language, persona, meaning the mask. We've got a mask of concepts, of words. We've bound ourselves up in, covered ourselves up in this cocoon, or mask of words, like a caterpillar forms a cocoon itself. But it hides the caterpillar, turns it off. But it's in there for a while, and the metamorphosis, however you pronounce that? Metamorphosis comes about, and it forms a beautiful butterfly. Well, we've bound ourselves in the limited edition of a person with these words. Take it off and see what you might instead of metaphors, you'll go back to your natural reality, which is the absolute. The absolute, the totality. And realise or recognise that is what I've always been. That is what I am. And then take that always been and what I am about it, leave it to thatness. And that's the word also. But that's what the ancient texts tell us. And the great mantra is, I am that. I am that. That is what I am. But then we've got to put it. We've divided that up. I am Bob, the Australian, or I'm not so good, or we don't say I am that absolute totality or godliness. And that's all that God is a word, a label. We put on the absolute. And then we see put it on the absolute. We think God is something higher than the absolute even. Can there be anything greater than that? Absolute. What can you add to it? What can you take away from it? So it's pointing out that absolute is everything and every no thing, or whatever you can sort of conceptualise or think about it. It's the totality. Or as they put in Buddhism, they call it the great perfection. And in there, Again, in the Hindu scripts, I think it's the Guru Gita, the last verse is, what is it? Oh, I can't think of the Hindu words about it now, but this is perfect, that is perfect, everything is perfect. If from the perfect is taken, only the perfect remains. So where have you come to and where have you gone from? Start from the fact that you are already that, always have been and always will be. We've lost sight of it. We've lost sight of it. We've taken on the words. And every and every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt, picked up along the way. So, and the word's not the real. How is it not the real? Well, have a look at it. Take the word water. I'm going to have a drink of the word water. What will I get out of that?
Die of thirst.
The word fire doesn't burn you if you say it. You can't cook with it. You can't heat yourself with it. So what's the word me or I? Me is just a word. Well, it's just a word, but what have we put on it? We put on the belief that it's this pattern, this shape, this form, this persona, this thing I call the person. Person's a shape and form. They're the other words I put on it. They're not that either.
Yeah.
But we try to describe it. We try to describe the indescribable and the indivisible with words. And in that description, which is not the described, we get lost in the concepts or the words. And that's what hides our true nature from us, the conceptualising, the wording of things.
Mm.
So we believe we are this person instead of we're the one and only, what they call in Hinduism, in the Advaitin teachings, non-duality. Non-duality translates means not two, or one without the other, or one without the second, only the one.
Yes.
When we put words on and believe we are this person, or I, as soon as we say I, there's got to, because the words vibrate always in the opposites, good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. As soon as there's I, there must be other than I, not I. Dualism. And that's the way it patterns, shapes and forms. That's the way it expresses. And it needs to. Being that one absolute, what could be said about it? What could be done with it? What could appear in it? What could disappear in it? What can be added to it? Nothing. What can be taken away? Nothing. For this display to take place, to have this so-called world, this cosmos, and everything in it, that seemingly divides itself into words, concepts, ideas, images. And it becomes more than one. It becomes other than one. And we get lost in that. We lose sight of it because of that seeming to be.
Yeah.
Losing sight about it makes we take on the concept or idea that we are separate. We're separate from it all. We're this persona, this mask, this conceptual image. Separate from every other one. And with that sense of separation comes isolation.
Yes.
Fear and isolation. Separation too. Because the little child, when it sees something that it doesn't realise or recognise what it is, it's unsure of it. It doesn't know. And it becomes fearful of it until he can recognise it, or it seems isolated from it.
Mm.
And that isolation into a seemingly separate entity and individual, that separation and isolation is the cause of all our problems. Because when you're not sure of something, you know, you're going to be very careful of it, or you're going to be frightened of it, or you're going to attack it, or destroy it, or grasp it, or do something with it. That's what I say, they call they talk about aliens coming from space and all the rest. They've got all these stories about that. If they did, they wouldn't have much chance. We'd pounce on them and kill them all before they got there. Just like when we took this country away from its natural inhabitants, you know.
Yeah.
They were quite willing to share with us, probably, but we weren't sure of them. And being greedy and wanting more, we wanted to take it away from them because they were different. We're not sure of the difference. And it all will appear to be difference because each and every one of us sees something different from ourselves. Even if your own race, creed and everything else, you see something different in it. Not realise it's the one. It's a sense of separation again. There is only the one, and you are that one. Vibrating into a dualistic pattern, shape and form. With that belief we're separate, what have we done to reinforce? You can't do much with I or me. Have a look at it. I, what can you do with I? Nothing. It's just a sound. To just say, I am Bob, and I like this, or I don't like it, that's not me, or it's something else. When we discriminate it, we're putting other words on it, and that's what discriminates, more words, more concept. And the sense of separation grows. Where the unsurety in the first place, if we investigated and had a look at it and saw it was nothing to fear, it was just another pattern. But everybody would have to do this because there would still be some that would want to attack you. So with that separation, the I, we can't do much with I, does it? It's got no substance to it whatsoever, it's just a sound, and a very brief sound. At that, we add into it, I am Bob, I am a good boy, I'm not so good, I'm an Australian. I'm unhappy, or I'm fearful, or I'm anxious. Making good use or use of whatever is good use, or not with these words, which we add onto this conceptual I, which all is symbolic of the figure one. That's all it is. To give it some substance or some solidity or some independent nature. And everything becomes relative to that I. Relative or relation. Relativity is relation. Relating to it. And relating to it has divided it into one and the other than the one. So relativity is dualism. And from that dualism we've been living ever since we've learnt those words. Happy? Everything going all right for you? Totally? Always and ever? No. There'll always be something come in to disrupt in that relationship. To add it, that what you're relating to will be doing, or something will be happening there that you don't like, or it doesn't fit in, or you can't come to terms with it, and so there's a conflict there. And those things that you can come to terms with don't stay around forever. They'll last a certain amount of time, but then they move on. Why? Because this whole manifestation is transient. It's constantly changing. Constantly changing. Even this pattern you call you or I is changing. This pattern here is changing right now. There are thousands of cells dying in it right at this moment. And the wonderment of it all, they're being replaced. Now, if I was running the show, I'd want to keep the good ones, wouldn't want the bad ones. And I wouldn't know how to replace them. I haven't learned that or nothing. So something's doing it, which is not I or me. So relationship relativity is dualism. And dualism means more than one. But the scriptures or the ancient texts, which understood this and have understood this for thousands of years, or for thousands of years, don't come into it because that's another matter of time. But there's always been a knowing of it somewhere along the line, even when the language wasn't there. They were realising it coming in the recognition of the natural state, relating or not relating to it, but recognising nature, the nature in them one. In them and the nature itself is the same. But we've tried to put it into words. And look at all we've got into trouble with the words again. All the different traditions, all the different religions, all the different sects and denominations and everything else, trying to work it out with words with the mind. And all those different sects, religions and all start fighting with one another. Because they can't agree. They won't agree while the word is there. That's why I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Hindu, I'm not a Muslim, I'm not a Jew or whatever. Any of the other Calathumpian or something else like that. But I recognise, and that's the one, I recognise the truth that's been put out there in all of those things. And each one of them there is gleanings of truth in them. But they get lost with the other concepts they put on that hide them. But the great truth is there in them. And you can resonate with that great truth, and you can do the same. You can take the truth out of them and leave the rest. Discard the rubbish. And when the rest is, or the rubbish is discarded, where does it leave you? In your known natural true nature, that you are that one essence. Patterning, shaping, forming and expression as everything. You are that. That is what I am. Already and ever. And that's the great mantra that they pointed that out in the scriptures. I am that. And you know that innately in your language, and you see, already know that everything is that. You already know it, but we don't take it. We've lost sight of the real, true meaning of it, and just say, we're mouthing the words. Oh, that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's you, that's me, that's the house. That's what I am. You know? Of course, it is all that. But then we put the discriminating lid on the chair, the table. And when it says in that Hingsi Ming that I was talking about earlier, where no discriminating thoughts arise, the old mind ceases to be. It ceases to be like that. You see it in its true nature. So everything is the one. And then the Advaita teachings again, they call it Sat Chit Ananda Nama Rupa. They are the 5 factors of it. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is loving to be. Nama Rupa, the name and form, are the other two, which they say are Maya, illusion. Now existence is real. Are you existing right now? Yes, you know you're existing. Are you conscious right now? Yes. Are you happy to be right now? Yes. That's going on right now. Now the name you got about yourself, is that what you are? The name? Are you a name?
No.
Are you the mind? Which that same person? Question that. And you know you're not the mind. You just say my mind, my house, my car. You know you're not the house, the shirt, the car, or anything like that. Maybe you're not the mind either. You know it, but you believe you are the mind. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
Same with my body. The nama rupa, the body, mind, nama rupa, a name and form. Are you the body? You know you're not the body.
Mm-hmm.
The body's made up of elements: air, earth, fire, water, space. Are you the air? Can you separate yourself from the air? Can you separate yourself from the water, the fire, or the space? You can't. So you're not separate from anything. But we've got this belief we're separated. And that's what needs to be seen through. That you already are that, always have been, and always will be. Now, we're getting some good questions lately. A lot of people are recognising it more and more. And they're hearing it, the same thing repeated all the time. And after a while, you probably get sick of it and start to realise and say, what the hell is he saying? And really have a look and recognise what already is known. So, tell us about it, those that are recognising it, because you can put it in different words to what I have putting it, and it might be resonated with somebody that can't recognise what I'm saying. Or those that are having trouble with it, ask questions, and somebody will say something that might resonate with you again. It is that resonation, or recognising, that and the recognition of resonation is the awakening. When you wake up to it, or in other words, the awakening means you hear it as it really is, where it's been spoken a million years and passed over and not recognised. So away you go.
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. Cat took my chair again. So you're going to have cats on both sides. Good morning, everyone, and good day. There is a comment. And there are a few nice welcoming messages, like Sally says, good morning, every nobody.
Good.
And good morning, fellow nobodies, Julia says. And yeah, I won't read all of them because the phone doesn't show, but yeah, thank you for the creativity and nice, insightful, welcoming messages. Now, we have a couple of questions. What made you laugh? I was making funny faces. Rohan says, that thing from which I arises has no need to say I, yet it is.
Yes. You can't say it is something, you can't say it is nothing. So it neither is nor is not.
Yeah, and then
It appears to be different from what it actually is, really.
And then Rohan says, seeing, as Bob mentioned aliens, when the inner space, which is merely a point, a center without circumference, is realized, the conditioning of the baffling vastness of outer space is transcended. This is a quote from Sri Ganesan, grandnephew of Ramana Maharshi. So it went in the family there. And Tanya, what is it like to be awakened? Isn't it just the same but not believing thoughts about separate me, body, and knowing there is nothing more to see than that you are not separate me? Thoughts are still being believed here, and there is seeking, not even sure what is being looked for anymore. How do I recognize my true nature once and for all and stop seeking?
Well, you know you're not asleep right now. And that awakening, if you like awakening, you're not unaware right now. Well, that awareness, which you can't say what it is, that's the label we've put on it, but you can't describe awareness to me. But if I'm asking you, are you unaware, you'll say, no, I am aware. You know it's there. That's it. Without putting that label on, does the awareness disappear?
No.
It's pure then, without the word. And that's it, even with the word on, and knowing that it's always and everything, that which everything else appears or expresses through that, in that and as that, then you know, whatever's seemingly clouding it and blocking it, is only seemingly so. It hasn't, it can't. That's the basic screen in which everything appears in. It's non-conceptual, uncontrived, ever-fresh presence awareness. It's presence here and now, and it's not unaware, so it's aware. But the only thing that put the contrivances and things we put on it are words, labels, concepts, images. So we think they're obscuring it. But any cloud, and the clouds can be very thick, seemingly obscure the sun, they seemingly obscure it, but the sun is always shining in its fullness behind that. When you know for certain that you couldn't have a single thought, feeling or emotion or sadness or unhappiness without that awareness or life essence, is another way of putting it, being there, well, that's what do? One thing that can happen, you relax into it, leave it as it is. Now at night it won't necessarily stop the clouds from appearing, because the clouds have a job to do. They do it. But the essence has never been corrupted or contaminated in the slightest by anything appears on that screen. Look at your movie screen, all the activities that can go on it. When the movie's over and the screen touches down, what's happened? Has it been touched by any of the play that went on in it? No. Did it hurt it in the slightest? No, not so ever. So the same with the screen of life that you are. Continually changing, but nothing's ever contaminated or corrupted. No sinner, no sin, no disease, no anything. All these things are happening on the screen. But you as the essence are untouched, or never have been.
And there is also that beautiful tendency of you, Tanya, to answer your own question in the way you formulate them. What is it like to be awakened? Isn't it just the same, but not believing thoughts about separate me, nobody, and knowing there is nothing more to see than that you are not separate me? Yes. This is, when they call it all sorts of different words, presence, awareness, okay, what's the awareness? Presence, okay, I kind of know, but I don't think about the presence all the time, so maybe I'm not awakened. It is not about thinking about presence. It is a natural state. So you are in the natural state, probably for the big part of the day. It is recognizing the natural state when it is already so. And the natural state first is easier to recognize it when the thinking stops or when the thinking paused. But once you recognize that you still exist without the thought, then you know that you somehow, the existence prior to the thought, then you don't bother even worrying to stop the thinking. Thinking can go on. Only the belief in because if the thinking, the commentary goes on and the commentary is obsessing about me, what they think about me, what is me gonna do, what's my future, what my past, that commentary, if there is a belief going into it, then suddenly the shift from the natural state to the identification, you become an actor, you believe your role and you play it now as the separate me. That's the belief, the act of believing, which again you're not doing because you're not the doer, is the life identifying as the costume of body-mind. But when you recognize that pattern of identification with the me, you don't even worry to question or to touch it. Let it just float in the space, and you are the awareness in which that habit pattern shows up. So now the natural state includes the thinking. Even if thinking goes on, you are the awareness, the screen. Like
if you ever find anything substantial or solid there, can you find a me? If you think there's something there, a centre there that you can find, have a look and see if you can find it.
Yeah.
There's seeing, there's hearing, there's tasting, touching, smelling, but there's no seer, seen, tasted, toucher or smeller. So there's no reference point that you can be related to at all. It's just pure functioning.
But there is little trap, Tanya, in your question. How do I recognize my true nature once and for all? Can you see how subtly you went into the time again? Once and for all, for good, for future, forever. Now I see I am, before the thinking, conceptualizing, believing in the me, all of it happens. Now I'm awake. But how about tomorrow? How about in a year time? There is no tomorrow, there is no year time. It's only ever now. If you only worry about that moment now I'm awake. Doesn't matter what happened next moment. That is the awakening. Because when you're still conceptualizing future and obsessing about me in future, having something or being free, that is the pattern that needs to be recognized for you to awake. When you see that pattern, that's a cloud. That is what obscures the clarity. The moment you see it, it doesn't obscure it anymore. You back the sky, and the pattern is just cloud. You're not the cloud anymore, you are the sky. So watch out for that desire to be enlightened forever and ever, or to awake in the future, or to be awake as well in the future, to have it for good, because those are little tricks that mind the conceptualizing pattern, the habit of identifying place on you. That's also life doing, it's just for fun. That's a leela.
Here we take our stance in the belief we are this person. And we don't have to say, we think that's going on forever and ever too until it's investigated.
Yeah. Yeah, acknowledge all those little moments when you don't have those beliefs that you still have to get something, or you still have to find something. You still have to be a seeker. It's still going on. It's not right. This moment is no good. I'm still seeking. It's still not it. It is it. It is always and ever it. Even if the seeking happens in this moment, seeking habit happens in this moment, it's still it, because there is only this moment, and it always is it, because everything is it. And it never gets, it is just, that's it. That's it. If you stop here, without trying to think of, yeah, but it could get a little better, couldn't it? That's another trap. That's it.
That's the problem. Some of us think it's going to be a big implosion or explosion or a big bang,
Yeah.
But it can be just a natural dawning. Like, what's the sun come up of a morning? It gradually rises and the sky gradually lightens up. In the recognizing, the dawn. In the dawning of that awareness, this has always been so. What's happened when the sun comes over the horizon? The darkness dissipates. And it's full of light. And that's what they said, when you are the light of the world. That life that you are is the light of the world. Be that light that dawns within you.
Yeah, we have the answer given from Amarnath. Answer is prior to question. That's a quote from Nisargadatta. You are already that. That's a quote from you. And there is no seeker, just a word. Yeah, good point. See the seeking pattern and identification with the seeker as just another piece of an appearance, completely transient. It's not there all the time. Who is asking the question? Jane reminded. Who is it, darling?
Somebody going past it.
Ah, yeah. And Theodore says, can one recognize being that even in the absence of samadhi or mystical experience?
Yes. Because if that wasn't there, how could you have a samadhi or a mystical experience or another experience?
Yep. Yeah. A natural state. Mystical experiences, all the experiences come and go on that.
Yeah.
That's why we don't bother chasing experiences, waiting for the experiencing.
For experience, mystical experience or other experience to go on, it has to be an experiencer.
Yeah.
Experiencer having this experience. But the actuality is experiencing. And for experiencer, or the experiencer, there has to be experiencing. And that's going on right now. before you divide it up into the experiencer and the experience.
That's it, yeah. Experiencing, and of course that experiencing is changing. What is happening on that space of awareness is still, is changeless. And that's what we call reality. Reality is that which never changes. If we want the truth of our reality, we don't look at things that change. So if there is to be an enlightening experience, or big bang, or implosion, or explosion to happen, just ignore it. I mean, if it's pleasant, sure, it's a joy in pleasure, just like in every other pleasure. But there's no truth in experience. It's no truth in passing phenomena. Be it samadhi. If somebody enters samadhi and leaves samadhi, samadhi is rubbish. It's just passing phenomena. It's part of the dream. What samadhi appears on, it is changeless reality. Realizing changeless reality is available right now because it is there, underlying the talking, the seeing, the hearing, the thinking. It is there undeniably all the time. And also what Tanya was saying, I'm still seeking when this will end. For many people, Tanya, and I think probably for more, the people that I met in Bob's meetings and who have clarity, for more than the other way, it happened without one profound moment of shift or experience or realization. That was slow dawning over the years. One insight, couple of wrong concepts dropped off, another insight, another couple of wrong concepts dropped off, and the clarity was getting brighter and brighter. The filter of interpretation through the me, through the self-center, was thinner and thinner, until the point came when there was no need to do anything anymore to get that filter thinner. If it's still there, it doesn't bother anyone, because the life shines through, whether the filter is there or it is not there. And a personality filter always is, because the instrument has to be there for the tune to come through it. And part of the makeup of the body-mind is its personality. But it doesn't have to be a one shift. Well, Bob happened to have one moment like this with Nisargadatta. I happened to have one like this with Bob. But a lot of people that we met here, they had a slow clearing of that veil, or that clouding of interpretation and relating, that was getting less and less until it wasn't showing up anymore, or if it was, it wasn't taken seriously or believed in. So don't wait, it is already here. Its natural state is already so. And now we got Paula. Just had one of the best light bulb moments. That's a beautiful way to say it. Light bulb moments, beautiful. Don't take anything personal, even if a person is directly insulting you. Yes. And as it is about the agreements they took on from their upbringing, and each individual has their own movie version running in their heads, unless start being the watcher, not the doer. Thank you, Paula.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful insight to share. I hope everyone really hears that. It's nothing personal. It's a game made of, it's not even a decision taken by the upbringing, which I understand what you're pointing at. It's just the way that body evolves and is affected by the environment and upbringing and mood and food and all, and the other body, and they kind of dance spontaneously unfolding, and then the situation comes or conflict comes. It is just part of the play. It is not personal. It's like two waves clashing because the wind and tsunami or whatever comes. It's not personal ever, never, because there is no person. Oh, there is another one from Paula. Only as the watcher with no labels can be in a state of more peace, and if trying to force your way, trying to direct others, agreements are not possible. Yeah, even controlling pattern and superimposing pattern and hurting pattern is a pattern. But yes, definitely the peace or agreement is not happening. That's a conflict. Heyman, in regards to unfixated awareness, I have a little to share. Last night in my silence, I realized any attempt or endeavor to fixate as unfixated awareness is futile. And the matter of the fact that futility resulted as unfixated awareness. It sounds a bit hopeless, if it from viewpoint of a person, but nevertheless worthy continuing again and again and again and again. I love that. Brilliant. You see, Heyman, your insight from our last Zoom meeting, that there is no again. You see there is an again in the language. And yes, beautiful, realizing the futility of trying to fixate on unfixated results in complete collapse. Now, Bill, cognition is irrevocable. Kick back and relax. Yes. Dear Bob, kindly explain I am everywhere and everything experience without experiencer, please. That's Armanath asking.
Well, the whole manifestation is the one essence. And what is...
Yes, explain how is it to be everywhere and everything without experiencer?
Well, what's it all take place in?
Yeah.
It takes place in that awareness, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, can you separate awareness?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't separate it, it must be so-called everywhere or nowhere, and change the no and put the W from the where on the no, and you've got now here. So it's always everywhere in the nowhere. It's always just this immediacy right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing separate in it whatsoever. It's not two. You've got an image in the mirror. You can't say it's not there, but you can't say it is there. There's all sorts of appearances going. And this we look out there, we say, try and find the end of space if you can, or the centre of space. There seems to be this vastness of space, but when did it begin? It's just beginning right now. When is it ending? So you can't put any big bang on it or anything because it had no beginning. It's a spontaneous emanation that's happening right now, and it's immediately. It's timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless, beyond where, when or how. It is not anything. And that's all it's seemingly made up of, the things. But can something come from the no thing? It is no thing. Not nothing, a vacuum or a void, but it's no thing. Now, I look out the window here and there's clouds out there. There are things appearing in the seeming space. And if we go back behind the clouds, there's a seeming blueness there, which is still the same space as in this room, but it's not blue. And I'm giving that seeming distance there, but where is it seen from? Just seen from this seeming particular pattern appearing through the eyes. Is it a clear, true or clear seeing from here? It's not at all. Because it's really seeing no thing, yet it is seen. It's a thing, pattern through which the seeing is happening, but there's no... Without the life essence, nothing could be seen or heard. It is no thing at all, appearing as something. So the whole lot is just a spontaneous emanation, without being endingless, endless, timeless and spaceless.
Yeah.
And everything in it is that. Can't separate anything from it at all.
Yes, I would add the angle. I am everywhere and everything. How can I feel it without the I? Even wanting to experience me or myself as everything is a subtle desire. It kind of contrives spontaneity of experience. But yeah, I totally get that, because it is interesting. It is kind of challenging for the mind that thinks, oh my gosh, is that even possible? I want that. But pushing the mind aside as just completely being open in that space in which there is no I. How to enter the space where there is no I? Just simply stop conceptualizing, stop thinking. And then now, without the thought, who are you? Where are you? What's your boundary? Without the thought, can you even say I'm here, or I'm the body, or I'm... You can't, because it needs the thought. So there is just isness, there is just being with no boundaries. There is, you are everything and everywhere if you don't conceptualize otherwise. If you don't have thought, that's what you are. But there is also another little, like, fun, sweet little exercise which takes you away from thinking into the space-like awareness. And that's not easy enough to do. If you just focus on couple, 3 or 4 distant sounds, like we just have the sound of the motorbike, and then we have the sound of the heater from the other corner, and we have the probably, if we listen enough, that we find a distant sound somewhere else. And now drop into just holding them in your attention and just look within, where is that sound happening? Is it really in here where the hearing is happening? Or is it out there when the mind is interpreting it being a couple of kilometers away? Or is it just here everywhere? I mean, you basically collapse your own location in that exercise, and you have the glimpse of experiencing yourself as being everywhere, because that space in which the hearing is happening, you are that space. The science will tell you that, oh, that is creating a mirror of the image or mirror of the sound. Forget about it. Direct experience doesn't say or doesn't explain it this way. Yet another way to look is to recognize that everything is nothing, and including yourself, and then of course you are that everything, because you are that nothing. But the main thing is to see the desire of the mind to wanting to experience something else that it is experiencing right now. Because this experience right now may not be experience of everything and everywhere. It is. It always is. The moment we stop conceptualizing otherwise, the moment I stop telling myself that I am inside the body, behind my eyes, located and looking out. It's not me looking out, it's the life just being.
If you pause the thought, what happens when you pause? Have a look. Have you stopped breathing? Stopped hearing? Stopped tasting, touching, smelling? The functioning is going on. You can't relate it to a hearer, a seer, a thinker, or anything at all. It's just a spontaneous happening, just outside in nature. As wind stirs, show me the wind if you can. You can't grasp a wind, and you wouldn't. And if you don't see how the wind expresses by, you see the expression of the wind or the air by the moving of the wind blowing the leaves and the trees and things around, you know. The clouds moving. What's forming in the cloud? The sun. Radiation of the sun is evaporating water, and it rises, it cools and forms a mist called a cloud. Nobody or no thing doing it, and no me out there, I'm a cloud, or I'm the sun even, you know, I'm there. In nature, the natural spontaneous functioning is going on, and it's all happening spontaneously and immediately.
You're looking this way, we'll get people the chance to look at you. You can look at the window now and they will have your face better. Yeah. And
life, in other words, is all life. Nobody lives a life. What we call life is being, knowing, hearing, all the functioning is happening through that life essence, which is vibrating and forming it, expressing it. And it's only a somewhat of a movement, it's not a full movement. A natural, spontaneous like throb or pulsation or no thing.
Tanya says, thank you for pointing out that subtle trap of going into time, Kat. Thank you, Bob. So many good pointers. Just relaxing into awareness. Full stop. What is left? Just this. Yep. And John David, unperceived, it causes perception. Unfelt, it causes feeling. Unthinkable, it causes thought. Non-being, it gives birth to being. It is the immovable background of motion. Once you are there, you are at home everywhere.
Yes.
Nisargadatta.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Really go into that and recognise what's being said there.
Yes.
Nobody's not saying anybody's doing anything because it's happening.
That's right. Experiencing contains experiencer, that which experienced. There is no distance between them. They all one happening right in this immediacy. That's Heyman.
Yeah.
There was noticing of no more questions, Jane. And Theodore, thanks for your reply to my question, leaving a temporary aha moment passing through. Love and best wishes to all from Orlando. That's Theodore. And Bill, clear cognition is essential. If you bring along your baggage, that baggage sits between observer and the observed. Just for a moment, be earnest. See that without a stake in the game, observer, no observed, just pure and clear cognition. This statement is, of course, conceptual. Nevertheless, pure cognition is inescapable. Yeah, beautiful. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Will.
Amarnath, thanks. Ever grateful to you. It's play in 5 elements. Food ship. Without player. Nisargadatta Maharaj. Tanya, no more waiting. Why believe the thought that I am not already that, or that I there is the need to look for something more? As Bob says, what is wrong with right now if you don't think about it? Nothing is wrong. Thank you. Yep. Amarnath, thanks Bob. Nowhere, now here. Thanks Kat for your present movement, golden movement with our concept of time, place, person. Heyman, take it easy Tanya, there is nothing to lose or gain ultimately. Rohan, Heyman, VTR, no one to gain or lose anything. That's it. Nothing to lose, no one to lose. Nothing to gain, no one to gain. If you are already everything, what can be added to the perfect? What can be taken away? Hi Manshu, thanks for sharing precious experience. Michelle, what would you say to someone who uses this message to dissociate from the body and not take care of the body because they are not the body?
Well, without the life essence, they couldn't even do that.
That's right. And also, without that message, they would find another excuse. We do whatever is in our nature. So people who are compassionate will use that message to bring more compassion. People who are nasty will use that message to excuse their own wrongdoings. But they are still people, because once you see through the message, you don't use it because you're not a person anymore. And now, once you see through this, you not suffer. And if you don't suffer, the likelihood of hurting yourself or others goes down, rapidly down. So if someone uses the message to hurt his or her own body, they obviously didn't get it. Because once they really get it, there's no need to hurt. Of course, there may be Yeah, well, we have to say, this Nisargadatta didn't look after his body that great. He did the best he could, but he didn't bother to quit smoking, for example. Alan Watts didn't bother to quit drinking, which killed him with the liver dysfunction or heart-related alcoholism. And this is, one could say, a proof that you don't look into non-duality because it is going to cost you. Nope. If in their predisposition of the body was to neglect the diet or neglect the exercise or don't bother with addiction, with or without the message, it's likely to be the same. Bob, yeah, you always looked after yourself reasonably well since you stopped drinking.
I didn't do anything. It's the life essence that does it all. The life essence, if you don't eat it, it's the life essence that's doing that. Certain patterns it might have to discard and break down, but the life itself, if it's not bound in any of these patterns, it forms and patterns. If I were to suicide, it wouldn't be me that was doing it.
That's right.
No, me has never done anything. But if this pattern were to break down, got rid of it, I'd get rid of it that way a lot quicker than probably would if it was left as natural, But if that's the way it's got to go, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, the thing that I think is important of highlighting in that whole, because there is a big story in Neo Advaita of, don't give that message out because people will use it. There is no people, and the using is only in the narrative. Actions are happening, life is actually perpetuating every action, whether it is hurting someone or yourself or others, it is always life. And the narrative is using excuses, explanations. It's only the self-talk and the verbal masturbation that really adds meanings to things. So if there is a tendency to disassociate, that tendency might be justified by this or the other philosophy. But it has nothing to do with it. It is just a justification used in the narrative, because on the bodily level, on the functioning level, life does all.
You mentioned Neo-Advaita there.
Yeah.
How many Advaitas are there?
As many as people believe into existence. They keep believing into existence more and more concepts. Yes.
Advaita is non-duality, one without a second.
Yeah.
Can it be new? Can it be old?
That's right.
What time then?
And what does narrative, conceptual understanding of the message have to do with anything at all? It's just the talk. It's just the inner noise. John David says, investigation is to directly perceive that we are not the body-mind, and that this means to our everyday life, and what this means to our everyday life. Otherwise, it remains philosophy. This teaching, this teaching is the glorious truth of who you really are. So grateful for the simple pointers from Bob that made this a living truth. His love refused to allow us to continue believing in illusion. That's it.
Thank you.
Yes. Kiran, how can you be in something and of something at the same time? In something and of something at the same time.
Well, there is no thing, not something.
Yeah.
So it appears it can be there.
Yeah, if everything is one, you have no other choice. You have no other way. You are, if everything is made of that one essence expressing as everything, so that one essence is the emptiness and the form, and it expresses as the body and through the body and in the body and out the body, because it's just one.
And there's no time.
Yeah. Yeah, at the same time, no time. Tanya, thank you, Heyman. Yes, that is true. And Heyman says, always welcome. John David, Kat, you have a wonderful clarity in sharing the message and explaining the finer pointers. Excellent job helping to answer questions. Thank you for all you to keep this family together each week. Thank you for being part of it. If not for you and others, we probably wouldn't be we would be doing something.
Thanks, John David. Yeah.
And yes, Tanya is also thanking Rohan for pointing. And misunderstanding of the message happens, Jessie says. Yeah, the message is really not, it can't, understanding it conceptually is just completely wrong approach. The mind is not the right tool for the job. It is known, it is a recognition of the knowing that doesn't need concepts. Jane, habit patterns are surface stuff. They don't affect the presence that you are. Exactly. Yeah. They kind of wave and ripples on the surface of the ocean, but the depth of the ocean is that everything. And that is it for now. I see if there is anything more on the phone. Not for the moment. Oh yes, there is the answer, someone says here. The answer is not in the mind. This is Heyman quoting Sailor Bob. That's it?
That's right. The answer is not in the mind.
Yeah.
If it was, you'd have found it long ago. If we use the mind so much and looked into it, why haven't you found it? It might dawn on you, maybe I'm looking in the wrong direction. Because every direction you've ever looked has always been in the mind. Because the only way out of the mind is full stop, period. Don't go there. It's full stop, don't go there. No thought. What's left? You don't disappear, the breathing hasn't stopped, all that's going on. Life is still expressing. But we're not discriminating it with the word. That's where the word comes into play again, and discrimination. And the great non-discrimination, awareness, non-conceptual, presence awareness. That's it.
Got another one. Dear Bob, explain working without plan, thought, or doership, please. How do you work without plan, thought, or doership?
How do you breathe? How do you see? How do you taste, touch, and smell without doership?
Yeah, and plan and thought.
Plan and everything. It's all spontaneous. Spontaneous. What's your next kind of thought going to be? If you're going to make a plan, what's your next thought going to be? Thought comes up spontaneously.
Yeah.
It's that life, again, that's expressing through these patterns that enables it all to happen. Just the same as it's rolling the earth around the sun right now. Causing the tides to come in and out. Spontaneously emanate. Just a throb or a vibration or what they call soma or whatever it is,
I love the way you explain, that I learned from you, to actually answer questions, look out in nature. How is the beaver building the dam without plan and thought and doership? How are the ants creating their colonies, or the beehives? How the animals, some of them are tribal, they create societies. Some of them are, their job is to, let's say, squirrel hides things for the winter, or bear gets fat to hibernate, or, they all do their work, their hunting, their finding food, the mating, the job, without the plan, without the thought, without the doership. The same way we are doing everything, absolutely the same way. The only difference is that we have the commentary that constantly take credit for all the actions. oh, I digested my food, I grew my hair. No, we don't take action for those, but we take credit for some of them. We take credit, I did the cup of tea, or I bought the ticket for the concert, which means I planned for it and prepared for it. No, it was also life functioning, but life functioning through the Biva. It gives the Biva the impulse to go and cut that tree or the branch and build that dam. And life going through this pattern gives it a thought of plan, thought of future, and also thought of taking credit for the seeming doership. But those thoughts can be recognized. And this is part of the natural functioning through this pattern. But it doesn't change the fact that every work always and ever happens naturally, spontaneously. Only the narrative takes credit for all the actions. And now Heyman says, that which covers the answer is the mind. Sailor Heyman.
Yes.
It's even amusing to see the patterns and waves dancing. They are laughable and sweet, passing through awareness. Yes. All of them, including the pattern of doership, of taking credit for it.
Yes.
How sweet, once it's harmless, once it doesn't cause suffering.
If you haven't got a vested interest in it, it's just enjoyable.
It's sweet, yeah. But of course, if you believe that may be painful. Heyman, when the path to good ends, when the path to God ends, the path in God begins. Suffering is in fact a call from depth of our own being. It is in fact a call from happiness itself. Come back to me. You are looking. I lost it. Oh gosh, it's a long quote. I lost it. Wait a minute. A call for happiness itself. Come back to me. You are looking for me in the wrong place. Cease rising in the form of attention, wandering in the realm of objects, looking for peace in situations, happiness in object, love in relationship. I think there's a few commas missing. Look for me where I really am. Look for me in heart. Look for me at the source of attention, not its destiny. Silence and Non-Duality Conference, Rupert Spira. Yeah, that was a long one. I like the, look for me, I don't know, whatever the me is. Source of attention, not its destiny. Or source of looking, not in the objects, where it starts, where it begins. It is always here. Thus, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Beautiful, Taz.
Beautiful. So true. One living essence doing nothing, not two. Larry. And Jane? Plans will apparently be made, but there is no planner. That's right. Yeah. Planning happens. No plan maker. Yes, Taz, right on, Jane says. Oti, with love to you, Uncle Bob, from ever sunny Tasmania. And Mukti, it is so stressful when there is a doer. Unsustainable. A quicker and quicker reminder these days that the doer identification has been activated and is switched on in the pattern. Yeah, good idea. Reminder that the what was it? Doership platform? No, doership. The doer identification, it's almost like a software, like a sort of a virus, Suddenly the doership identification.
Old habit.
Yeah.
I do. I think that's a habit that we're in. See, there's no doer. The doing happens.
Yeah, it's just taking credit. Now, John David, have you felt the all-embracing emptiness in which the universe swims like a cloud in a blue sky? That's from Nisargadatta. I love this question because it lovingly shows that being nothing is not really a void, but holds everything? It is a beautiful question. Have you felt all-embracing emptiness in which the universe swims like a cloud in a blue sky?
Yeah. Yes, that's going on all the time.
Yeah. Amarnath, dear Bob, your comment on grace, please. Everything is nothing but grace, says Nisargadatta.
If you like to use that term.
Yeah, I've seen this morning, a couple of hours ago, I was visiting one of my clients who is a beautiful, beautiful, devoted Christian who loves Jesus and is so happy and in a state of bliss all the time because he is so surrendered that there is no sense of self left. Everything is God and is recognized as God. And I love him, and he is a wonderful man. And I was telling him at some point a story of my life in which I could feel that I was so lucky in many, many ways, so fortunate, diamond of good fortune, like Nisargadatta calls it. Life brought me to this beautiful man, that life gave me whatever I wanted. There was accidents that I have avoided, near misses that were more lessons than anything else. I mean, it was always looked after, and I felt lucky. I was even in a Zen monastery a couple of times in Vietnam where they gave me a Buddhist name, which was truly lucky. And the man corrected me a little bit. Why call it luck? Why don't call it grace? That gives it an authorship. But the author for him would be Jesus or Father or God. But in our language, it could be the universe or the absolute or the cognizing emptiness. But that grace is the same word for, it's a life's doing. It's an all-embracing, loving to be, an affectionate awareness of that being, looking after its own expressions or manifestations. He also used grace was one of the words he used, and then if you say this is not a luck but grace, you can also say you feel blessed. You not feel lucky, you feel blessed. And that blessing is such a devotional, beautiful reminder of love and warmth, and it's just rewording it. I mean, the truth is everywhere. The man is as free as it gets, even though he still believes that, I don't know actually if he believes that God is separate, because
just another label, grace.
just another,
Activity of knowing, being.
Heyman says, the ultimate understanding that there is no ultimate understanding. That's Nisargadatta. And Jane says, amazing grace.
Yeah.
Yes, just another label. It's a sweet label, it's a nice word. But again, it has its little hang-ups, because if you want to be a bhakti, someone who still remains as a person, but person in a state of absolute complete devotion, which means in love, to the object of worship, then grace, the grace is something separate that comes to you. There is a you and grace that comes to you or showers on you that is still subtly too. But when you understand, it's just another word, because the language is always dualistic, and you understand that you are that grace, because you are, everything is one. You are that life, you are that love, you are that grace. So it really ultimately is yourself looking after yourself. It's really just one. Then the word it can be used. Now, Kiran, I was exercising the other day, and a thought came up while doing it that said, I can't do this. Then another straight away, but it is happening. So that's not true. Profoundly unprofound. Beautiful. This is a great realization. This, in a simple things like this, I can't do it. What a bullshit. It's happening, of course. I remember Bob sometimes uses his example of not being able to stop smoking or drinking. The mind was telling him for years, no, you can't live without it. It's a medicine, it's a whatever, I can't live without it. And look, it's been over 60 years. The mind was telling him bullshit. And the mind is quite often, telling you bullshit. Not that there is you and the mind, but it's just a narrative pattern that is. What is never was, says Heyman, that says Jim Newman. And Larry, all embracing emptiness. Good one, Nisargadatta.
Cognizing or knowing emptiness, yeah. It's the emptiness that's doing it.
Yeah.
Suffused with that intelligence or knowing it. That's what all the forms, patterns, shapes and appears in their so-called emptiness. And the cognizing, we see get them obscured, but need to recognise what they really mean.
Yes.
When we think we are cognising emptiness, recognise that the emptiness itself is suffused with that life that's doing it. The person can't do anything at all.
Yeah. Let's see if there is more on this one. No, we have first goodbye message coming. Thanks, love to all.
Oh?
The first thank you and goodbye message coming. So I think that's about time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Oh, there is one more. Rohan, emptiness can be misunderstood to mean void.
Yeah.
Something which even Buddha rejected. That's right.
Yeah. It's just the same as saying nothing. It's not nothing, it's no thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and void is a thing. I mean, at least in a concept. We can't really say what it is. It is, ungraspable, ineffable. Jane, beautiful pointers, Kat and Bob. Thank you. Love you both. Enjoy every moment. And yes, so they are goodbye messages coming. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah, thank you for all your contribution. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. It wasn't really one bad thing to be corrected. All was brilliant. And
love you all. Yeah.
Love you all. Yes, that's just so beautiful that you share what moves you, because that makes it so down to earth, practical, and helpful. Thank you. Emptiness is full of awareness, says Amarnath. Yes. Thanks, bye, and thank you.